Welcome back to another fun episode of Tiger Bytes, Auburn Online's podcast, where we feature cutting edge teaching practices from all across campus. Today we have an extra special treat for everybody. Asim Ali is with us. He's the man with the plan, the top of the pyramid at, you're top of the Biggio Center, right? And then Auburn Online is a component of the Biggio
Sure.
Center.
I don't, I have as a business faculty member, you may appreciate that I recognize org charts for what they are, which is efficiency when it comes to trying to figure out who signs the leave slips.
Right, right.
But in operationally, I don't really see it as a pyramid, if I could.
So what sort of structure would you see it as?
I
A
see it.
circle of love or
I appreciate that question actually as a start because to
yeah.
me, the culture that we create in the organization is far more important than any of the work that we do. The work just ends up being amazing because the culture that exists is so good. I think we can be good at anything we do because of the team that we have. I picture it as like a spider web
Okay.
where everyone is connected to everyone else and has an important contribution to make because that's what keeps us strong and catching all the insects, if I could.
That's
keep
sort of like a
down
matrix
that.
structure. I
Yeah.
don't know if you're familiar
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
matrix structure.
Spider webs look cooler, I guess.
I like what you said about culture. There's this famous quote, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think it's true.
I agree.
As a guy that teaches strategic management, I mean, you can have the best strategy, the best structure in the world. If your culture is terrible, you're not going to be functional.
Absolutely agree. It's been a privilege of a lifetime for me, career wise, to have the opportunity to found Auburn Online. I mean, it's rare for to be at institutions like Auburn that have been around for hundreds of years, and to start something completely new that hasn't existed before. So that intentionality about how is it going to be to work here is a very real question to ask, and so. I was very intentional about what kind of work environment do we create, especially in those early few years when we first were starting, and people wanted a lot of structure and they wanted a lot of top down, and because that just for some reason comes
It's
naturally to
comforting.
us, it's
Yeah, it's
comforting,
comforting.
and I had to get people understanding that it's okay to feel comfortable with a little bit of chaos and a little bit of uncertainty, and how do we balance that? So yeah.
I want to brag on you a little bit.
Uh-oh.
A few years ago, you got in touch, because we've known each other for a long time. A few years ago, you got in touch with me and said, Dave, I want you to come over if you're willing and talk to my folks about how we can become more entrepreneurial. And so I almost fell out of my chair because, having done this 30 years, I don't think anybody in an administrative position has ever said to me, hey, help us become more entrepreneurial. But you guys are, you're willing to try stuff. You've been willing to try stuff with me with no guarantees about whether it's going to break even or be successful or anything like that. And I think it's tough to pull that off in a university setting where we tend to have a lot of rules, a lot of bureaucracy. So hats off.
Thank you, and I appreciate you coming by. And that was a very well received seminar that you did. It was very hands on, and people tend to think that entrepreneurial has to be money related, but to me, especially in a university mindset, for many folks, entrepreneurial can just be the mindset. How do I think about I used my jelly beans kind of metaphor sometimes that this idea of how do we just get people. We have people that work in the Biggio Center. They're interacting with hundreds of folks across campus, across the country. They're coming across a lot of interesting ideas. Maybe they're starting to spot some trends and things like that. Can they think about what the opportunity is there to make sure that faculty have access to the resources and the services that we could potentially provide to help them be better at their craft? And then we know that's going to result in better student learning outcomes if we do it the right way.
So where the jelly beans come into that picture?
So you know how in Jelly Bellies, like you can say like, oh, there's a strawberry Jelly Belly, and you can combine it with like a I don't know, like the white one, and it tastes like cheesecake.
Smush them together.
Yeah, you smush them together, make something better. So I think I got the idea from Temple Grandin, if I remember correctly. Maybe attributing something to somebody, but this idea that you come across jelly beans throughout your entire day, week, month, whatever, like these little trends or ideas or topics or conversations that come up, and setting aside intentional time to say, hey, these are the jelly beans I came across. Let me see if I can mush any of them up to make something interesting. And that's where some of our most interesting mashup ideas come from.
So a similar illustration would be Reese's peanut butter cups, where they used to have these commercials where you'd have somebody strolling along with chocolate, somebody strolling
Yeah,
along
with
with
the peanut
peanut
butter.
butter. They'd bump into
Boom.
each other, and the two
Yes.
tastes would come together. They'd both taste
Yeah.
like, wow, this is way better than these
Yeah.
components
But that always
individually.
tastes good. But we all
Right.
know that there are licorice jelly
Oh
beans,
yeah.
and sometimes when you add licorice to a good idea, all of a sudden you're like, that didn't quite taste as good. Uh, so that's why jelly beans allow you to mess up and move on to the next idea.
Auburn Online started in 2014,
That is correct.
and offerings are up roughly 500%.
1,000,000%. Yeah,
Wow.
it's we a lot of that is meeting the moment where it was. I think we had seen growth in terms of online at the graduate space, and there was growing buzz in 2014 around needing to be able to do online. There were a lot of institutions that were trying to do online at scale.
Right.
For Auburn, I think what makes Auburn special is our on-campus experience, right? This idea that when you're here, when you're this Auburn family, the creed, there's iconic Auburn things that make it just, this is Auburn, this is us. And online at scale with hundreds of programs and starts every 2 weeks. It's not an Auburn DNA thing. And so the challenge that I gave myself was, okay, yeah, we see this jelly bean of online learning at the undergraduate space needing to be something that we need to look at. We see Auburn being an important, like that experience of being an Auburn student being so important. How do we do online in a uniquely Auburn way? How do we do it in a way that actually enhances our brand, doesn't cash in on our brand? And that's always been our goal: is how do we do this in a way that faculty feel better about doing it, and students are appreciative of the experience that they gain in that space, and then also I can stand in front of anyone who not only values access in education but also values Auburn, the brand, uniquely, and be able to with a clean conscience say we do this and we do this really well, and that's
Mhm.
always been a goal.
So things are sort of moving along slowly through the teens, and then all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. We have a pandemic.
Yeah,
We aren't allowed to be face to face for a while, and then for a while we can kind of be face to face a little bit.
as long as we're 6 feet apart and
Yeah.
breathing only
So
once every 17 seconds. Yeah.
now, with the benefit of hindsight looking back, what was that chaos like?
Yeah, one thing that I have to give hats off to at Auburn, the senior administration decided in 2019 to put together Auburn Online, the educational development, assessment and testing services, our support for instructional technology through the Biggio Tech unit. We were able to basically combine all those. So I started this job as executive director of the Biggio Center in January of 2020. It's almost like foresight for whoever decided to,
Mm.
do that merge. So we have a team of people whose mission it is to support faculty and empower them to be the best they can be in terms of their teaching, to improve student learning outcomes at Auburn University. And now we're all working together. We have a mandate almost to work together. Nobody really knew what that was going to look like or feel like. And so everyone being able to collaborate and work closely together really just, I mean, that couldn't have been better timed in terms of our readiness. And so we were, you may remember that we were at spring break when March 3rd or so, when we were thinking, okay, we may have to do something remotely. And we didn't, as an institution. Auburn was one of those institutions that did not take an extra week after spring break to figure it out or anything. That Monday after spring break, we were we were at remote. And so, what is a reasonable expectation in terms of faculty at spring break having to figure out what they're going to do for modality on that following Monday? And so being able to have a team that specializes in quality of teaching and learning, enhancement of that teaching and learning, emerging technologies that are available to do that, in an effective way, all of them working together, we'd taken some steps around this back in the day with swine flu
Mm.
days. You may remember those. It's part of our continuity planning. We licensed Zoom for everyone and those kinds of things. So we were able to set up a Zoom help room, and people just dropped in and said, "How do I do this in Canvas?" or
Mm.
"How do I do that in Zoom?" and those kinds of things. And we were immediately able to help, and it really helped. I wouldn't want to relive those days at all,
No.
but the amount of hours that we had to put in across the team, just I'm so deeply appreciative. That affirmed for me that this idea of a Biggio Center centrally supporting all of campus is first of all valid and important and well timed for where the institution is in our maturity. And the second thing is just the talent of the people across the Biggio Center and the leadership that we have. It just made such a big difference in terms of being ready and available to help. The instructional designers that you work with, I mean, they're so good. It's incredible the talent that exists on those teams. Our educational development team is so good. It's just incredible to see how the ideas they come up with and the way they help faculty. And that just being able to do that while hell is breaking loose all around you was certainly a bigger challenge, but it
Well, it
worked.
goes back to culture too. If you have the right culture in place and all hell breaks loose, everybody sort of circles the wagons. Hey,
Yeah,
we got to get this job done. As opposed to if you didn't have a good culture, people could say, "Hey, I quit. I'm not
yeah. This is not
working
what I
extra
signed up for.
hours. This is not what I signed up
Yeah,
for." Which that sentence should be banned
yeah.
from
Right.
campus, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Or people say like I'm staying in my lane. Like
oh
really, I think the
God,
lane is the entire institution. But yeah,
right.
I agree. So
One of the silver linings, I think, from the whole pandemic experience is a lot of people experimented with doing some things in terms of teaching that they probably wouldn't have tried
sure.
otherwise. So, in my research design seminar, for example, historically we'd meet in person for 3 hours. I'd lecture for the first half, and then we'd talk about their projects the second half. So, I ended up recording the first half to meet the mandate of only meet
Mm,
half the time, and then put those videos on Canvas. And the student feedback was, this is great because I can go back and revisit the lecture. Maybe I'll do it on one and a
yeah.
half speed, but I can revisit what you said as opposed to it being a one-off.
Yeah, I think the basic takeaway that we can imagine from the pandemic really has been that there were a lot of trends in place already, and the pandemic simply just sped them up.
Mm.
So this idea, I used to call them my three-year conversations. Anytime you're trying to bring culture change, it takes time, and so I used to call them my 3-year conversations, where I would meet with faculty or department leadership or college leadership and say, "Hey, I think there's a potential for some online teaching in this area," and they would say, "That's not really us." And then about a year later, be like, "Hey, I think there's some potential here," and they'd be like, "I think we'll try something. Why don't we try something next year?" And
Mm.
then like the third year, they would reach out to me and say, "Hey, I think we should be teaching online. Can you get us, can we get this going in 3 months?" And so I think it just sped up those conversations where a lot of faculty said, "Oh, wait a second, it is possible to do this. What if we did this intentionally? Would that be better?" And yeah, exactly. Being able to step in and say, "Yeah, here's what that could look like if we did it intentionally." We've launched some incredible programs just in the last post-pandemic years that are incredibly high quality. They deliver value. They deliver just an incredible experience for the students in those programs. It's been a privilege really to see all that come together, and it's been exciting to see it all come together.
Well, I want to ask you about augmented reality, virtual reality, and the AI integration. What was the inspiration for pursuing that, and where do things stand? Where are they going?
Yeah, there's anytime that we talk about innovation in higher education, there's a number of things, topics, or ideas that we can look at. So virtual and augmented reality has always been one of those that it'll be neat to figure out what this looks like. Coming off of the pandemic as well, our CIO Jim O'Connor, rightfully so, was saying, "Hey, we if we have to do that again, that's not what that should look like." And so he was willing to put some funding where his ideas were, and helped collaborate with the Biggio Center and OIT, collaborate together to say, okay, let's establish this initiative. We call it AUX, Immersive Learning Experiences, at Auburn University. And shout out to my good buddy, partner in crime, Alicia Baggett Chastain, who works alongside in OIT. And essentially, the idea is, can we, we're not going to build like a virtual campus. I don't really see that being a thing that people get up for and I want to join my virtual environment. I know Meta and companies like that are investing a lot of money in those kinds of things. But where I think it makes a lot of sense is you've got learning experiences in every discipline that you're like, God, if I explain this in lecture or if I do this in a 2D format, it doesn't really quite hit. Can we build this as an immersive experience? What does that look like?
So food safety would be a
Food
nice
safety, when you were
example
talking
of
with
that.
Mark
Yeah.
Trainer, talking about food safety, some of the stuff that we've done in chemistry, some of the stuff that we've done around campus. So we invited faculty to submit ideas like, hey, what are those things that you hear from students? We actually have folks from SGA and some of the students who participate in the evaluation process with us, and they say, oh, we talked with students and we actually think that this learning outcome here is going to be really interesting. And so they help us pick some of the projects that we invest in. And then we've got a team in Auburn Online that is talented at developing those immersive learning experiences. And we build them and we see what it looks like and we gather some data. And so far it's been pointing, a lot of faculty that have been, putting together some publications that seem to indicate that, there is a there.
Tune in next time for the second half of my interview with Asim Ali. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and gained some valuable insights. Please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends and colleagues. You can find us on all major platforms and keep learning, keep growing, and we'll see you next time on Tiger Bytes.